The world barely noticed at first, but in Manila, whispers grew. Russia was offering the Philippines advanced arms. The impact was immediate, a seismic tremor threatening to upend Southeast Asia's balance of power. Russia's proposal: cutting-edge jets, silent submarines and coastal missile systems, tempting tools for a nation seeking strength. For decades, the Philippines relied on aging American arms, now outmatched by its neighbors. Moscow's offer forced a reckoning. Embrace new power and risk old alliances, or remain vulnerable and isolated. This was no ordinary arms deal. It was a test of loyalty, a lure of power, and a potential trap. The stakes: national security, sovereignty, and the future of alliances in a region contested by superpowers. The next move would define a generation and the destiny of the Philippines. Russia's offer was a military game-changer, a comprehensive package designed to modernize and significantly enhance the Philippines' defense capabilities. It presented an opportunity to acquire advanced military hardware and technology, fundamentally altering the country's strategic position in the region. Su-35 fighter jets, Kilo-class submarines, Bastion P coastal defense systems, and advanced air defenses. This potent combination of military assets represented a significant upgrade in firepower and defensive capabilities. The Su-35S would give the Philippine Air Force true air superiority, providing a distinct advantage in aerial combat and reconnaissance. Shifting from defense to power projection, allowing the Philippines to extend its influence and protect its interests further afield. Kilo-class submarines, silent and deadly, offering a stealthy and formidable underwater presence, could deny adversaries access to Philippine waters, effectively controlling vital sea lanes and protecting maritime resources. Bastion P systems would turn the archipelago's coastline into a missile fortress, creating a formidable barrier against potential naval incursions, deterring hostile fleets. This would significantly enhance the country's ability to safeguard its territorial integrity. Advanced air defenses would shield against aircraft and missiles, providing a robust umbrella of protection for critical infrastructure and population centers, creating a layered protective dome. This multi-tiered defense system would make any aerial attack a costly and challenging endeavor. This package would transform the Philippine military from an internal security force to a credible external defender. It would signal a shift in focus towards safeguarding national sovereignty and projecting power beyond its borders. It was more than hardware. It was a turnkey solution for a new military posture, offering a complete and integrated approach to modern defense. The offer promised not just weapons, but a leap in strategic capability, providing the Philippines with the tools to assert its interests and protect its territory in a complex geopolitical landscape. For Manila, it was a chance to rewrite its defense doctrine overnight, transitioning from a primarily defensive posture to one capable of projecting power and deterring aggression. But every new capability came with new risks. The acquisition of such advanced weaponry could potentially alter the regional balance of power and invite new challenges. Russian arms finding their way into Philippine hands represents a significant shift in the regional dynamics. This infusion of advanced weaponry could have far-reaching consequences. It would fundamentally upend the existing balance of power in the South China Sea, a region already fraught with tension and competing territorial claims. China's established military dominance in these waters would suddenly face a range of new asymmetric threats, challenging its long-held strategic advantage. Think of submarines silently lurking below the surface, ready to strike, or missiles strategically poised on shore, capable of deterring naval movements. Filipino forces, which were once significantly outgunned and at a distinct disadvantage, could now credibly inflict real and substantial costs on any potential aggressor contemplating hostile actions. The primary goal here is not to defeat China in a direct confrontation, an unrealistic prospect, but rather to deter any potential aggression by significantly raising the perceived price and risk associated with coercion. Regional players, including Vietnam and Malaysia, both with their own vested interests in the South China Sea, would undoubtedly watch these developments closely and perhaps even be spurred to seek their own military upgrades and enhancements in response. This move could potentially unify Southeast Asian claimants in a more cohesive front, or, conversely, spark a destabilizing and dangerous arms race throughout the region. The introduction of advanced Russian hardware into the equation would inevitably make every confrontation in the region more unpredictable and potentially escalatory. The Philippines could transition from being perceived as a pawn in a larger geopolitical game to an independent middle power with greater agency, wielding newfound leverage and influence at the negotiating table in international forums. The psychological impact of this shift would be profound and far-reaching. Manila would no longer be relegated to the role of a passive observer in its own territorial disputes. It would represent a clear and unambiguous declaration of strategic autonomy and a commitment to defending its national sovereignty. Ultimately, the region's long-standing status quo would be irrevocably shattered, ushering in a new era of uncertainty and strategic competition. Russia's motives are clear: economic desperation, geopolitical ambition, and a desire to disrupt US dominance. Sanctions and war have drained Moscow's coffers. It needs new arms customers. The Philippines, eager to modernize, is a lucrative, untapped market. By exploiting friction in the US-Philippines alliance, Russia hopes to drive a wedge between old partners. A successful deal would give Moscow a strategic foothold in Southeast Asia and elevate its Pacific profile. With the US distracted elsewhere, Russia sees a window of opportunity. The offer is a calculated gamble to reshape the regional order while rivals are preoccupied. It's not just about selling weapons, it's about rewriting the rules of the Indo-Pacific. For Russia, this is a chance to prove it's still a global force. The timing couldn't be more critical. For the US, the Russian offer is a strategic alarm bell. The Philippines is a treaty ally, a linchpin of America's Pacific security. Washington would respond with urgent diplomacy, stressing alliance benefits and warning of the risks of Russian integration. Mixing Russian and American systems would cripple interoperability, weakening the alliance. The threat of US sanctions, Kaatsa, would loom large, risking economic and military aid. Too harsh a response could push Manila closer to Moscow. Too soft and US credibility erodes. The US would likely counter with expedited arms offers and stern warnings. It's a delicate dance. One misstep could fracture a critical alliance. The stakes for Washington are enormous. China's reaction would be mixed, concerned but also opportunistic. A heavily armed Philippines would complicate Beijing's South China Sea strategy, curbing its freedom of action. Yet a weakened US-Philippines alliance could benefit China in the long run. Beijing might publicly condemn the deal, warning of an arms race, while quietly seeking to exploit the rift. China could offer Manila economic incentives or diplomatic off-ramps, positioning itself as a reasonable alternative. The real fear for Beijing, a regional domino effect with other Southeast Asian nations following suit. A coalition of well-armed neighbors could check Chinese expansionism. The South China Sea would become even more contested and dangerous. China would watch and maneuver at every turn. For the Philippines, the Russian offer is a double-edged sword. On one side, real military modernization, national pride and leverage with both the US and China. On the other, the risk of alienating its only treaty ally, facing crippling sanctions and losing vital intelligence and support. The deal could embolden Manila but also provoke China and escalate tensions. Multi-alignment is a high-risk, high-reward strategy. Trading a proven alliance for an untested partnership with Russia is a historic gamble. The move could bring strength or spark instability and conflict. Philippine leaders must weigh sovereignty against the risk of isolation and economic ruin. Their choice will shape the nation's destiny. Beyond geopolitics, the Russian deal faces daunting practical hurdles. The cost of advanced systems is enormous, straining the Philippine defense budget. Integrating Russian hardware into a US-centric military would require massive retraining and adaptation. Maintenance, spare parts, and technical support from a sanctioned Russia are uncertain at best. Relying on Moscow creates long-term strategic vulnerabilities. Building the expertise to operate these systems would take years, if not decades. The risk of delays, overruns, and operational gaps is high. Buying hardware is easy. Building true capability is a generational challenge. The road from acquisition to readiness is long and fraught with pitfalls. July 1st, 2025. The Philippines stands at a crossroads. Accepting Russia's offer promises power and independence. but risks sanctions, conflict, and instability. Rejecting it preserves the US alliance but leaves the military imbalance unresolved. The choice is between bold self-reliance and the safety of the status quo. Is the promise of strength worth the risk of isolation and economic pain? Manila's decision will reshape the Indo-Pacific for years to come. The world is watching as the Philippines weighs risk against reward. What do you think? Is this a masterstroke or a mistake?